All right, let's begin. So today I want to jump to recipe illustration. Normally, when we do food illustration targeted for recipes, I break it up into three or four different sections of that. One is just the raw ingredients, so you draw fruit, vegetables, and things like that. Then the cooked stuff, and then also a whole bunch of utensils, because in cooking, or let's say in showing how a recipe is made, one aspect is also what you cook it in. So it sometimes helps to just practice making those containers, making a saucepan, a frying pan, maybe even a mixer grinder or something. Like if we are, since we are going to make the recipe of a smoothie today, I'll show you how to create one, I guess a smoothie maker. So these, in the absence of words, how can you use pictures to show what you're going to, what you need to do in a recipe? So for an illustrated recipe, the best strategy is to not depend too much on words. So look for something that will show you what measurements you're using, of course, what ingredients you are using, and then the other tools, and finally how you are going to uh, how you're going to eat it. So a serving suggestion, and all of this can be made through pictures. So when you are imagining your recipe, I would like you to break it up into all in these different sections to practice it. The raw ingredients, fruit, vegetables, spices, green leafy veggies, whatever you have, all the ingredients. Then the utensils, which you will use for cooking, for processing. Then the containers, which you will use for presenting and serving. Then, lastly, it will be the presentation of the entire meal, maybe. So, there are various ways in which you can illustrate the recipe. Now, when it comes to making a composition, there are certain things I feel that we don't know unless you have done a little bit of design or something before. And you will, our normal go to for a recipe illustration is pretty standard. You start with the title at top, write all the ingredients, then write all the process, and in the end, just finish it off with some serving suggestion. And wherever you get space, you will maybe make some pictures. And this is a great starting point, because this is how we understand writing in itself. We Everything is linear. You start from the top, you go to the bottom, then you go to the next page. But when you are illustrating a recipe, there is no such linear direction for illustrations. You may have an order in which you want things to go. You may, obviously, you will, if you need to wash something, you're not going to show that part later. So there is some kind of timeline that you will adhere to. But that does not mean that you have to say that right at the top of the page. A timeline can be established in different directions also. It doesn't always have to be top to bottom, it can be left to right as well. The point is, the moment we are illustrating, there are different considerations that we have to think about. So that's what I want to show you today in the composition part. So before we make the final illustration, we will do a few rough compositions in the back of the page. Now, before you do any illustration also, it's a good idea to write down the recipe. So let's see, what smoothie recipe can we use? We can have standard smoothie that I make. We'll have bananas, maybe papaya, then some nuts, so usually almonds. Then I use an almond milk as well. What else can we put in smoothies? And then there is some sweetener, so either honey or molasses or date syrup. And maybe top it off with some fresh berries or something. So strawberry is good enough. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 ingredients. Oh, 1 second. Okay, so now for the composition. Let's do, your starting point can easily be the your most familiar composition. So if you write from top to bottom like that, then you can also draw top to bottom, let's say. So you will draw bananas here, maybe you can draw papaya here, almonds here, you could have almond milk. Now this requires drawing a glass. Molasses will require drawing a bottle or some container. Even date syrup. And then, of course, you have berries. So, this is the order that we've gone in. And then in the end, you might have a picture of your smoothie, somewhat like that, finished up. So, this is very standard, simple. And if you want to put in some instructions, you can also put instructions. Now, this is also something I have found that in the beginning, you cannot let go of instructions, worded instructions. Like you will want to say something about how to prepare this, but we want to avoid even this as far as possible. So, think of different ways of writing. So, whenever you are looking to explore creative options, you can think of changing something or the other. Whatever is in what its place in this first composition should not remain in its place in the next composition. Now, the few things to keep in mind when you are making any composition, one is decide on a hero. Which element is going to be the hero of your picture, literally. So that hero has to stand out, must get special treatment. Now, what kind of special treatment can this be? They can have more space, so the size can be bigger. They can be brighter, so the color, either this is the only element that can be in color or can have more color vibrancy, texture. And also sometimes different kind of treatments, like for example you could do a collage. It needs to stand out, so this becomes your main character, and a good 50-60% of the attention of your illustration should be given to the hero. Now, as much as we are imagining in our case right now, the hero is going to be the finished smoothie, in many cases, the hero or heroes could be the ingredients. Like if you are going to make something like green curry with five different greens in it, it's the ingredients that will look much better than the final product, which is just going to be a green puddle at the end of the day. So those heroes then would be definitely different from this one singular hero. So your hero doesn't always have to be the finished product. All right, so then after the hero comes the supporting cast. And these should not overshadow the hero, of course, but should aid the illustration. Anything that you put in the picture is going to make an impact on the final image. So you have to be very careful what and how much of that you want to put in the illustration. Now, when it comes to illustration, sometimes you need to only hint. So you need to know whether you want to just give a small indication of what this might be, or just um, I guess a very prominent picture but not a dominant picture. Now, an example of this I can give you is, for example, in this particular case, we could easily compose our smoothie as if it is inside a fridge. All these ingredients can be kept in the fridge. So, the fridge or the inside of the fridge can be the supporting illustration. But if we draw it as a just the backdrop, then it won't be dominant. You can still maintain the hero, which would be all these ingredients, and yet it can support it by being prominent because it be large on the page, but not take away from the importance of the hero. Then we come to the text. So you need to decide whether you need text at all. Sometimes you will. There are some recipes that cannot do without some explanation. Like you may show tomatoes without the skin, but is it peeled a tomato? Is it blanched tomatoes? Are they cooked tomatoes? Are they canned tomatoes? And each of these processes changes what you're trying to say. So sometimes text is necessary. You need to decide how much. So you need to say 3 kilos of blanched tomatoes from so and so place. No, we might not need full sentences. So be brief. Now, apart from the text that we use for the recipe, we also need text for the title. That is an important bit of text. We can't do without it. So, the title now should again be um, in harmony with the hero. And there are cases where the title becomes much more uh, important, can become very big, and more important than the hero, also. That's fine. Not always, but on rare occasion, it can be. But for the most part, these two go hand in hand. Either you will see the title first and then the hero illustration, or you'll see the hero illustration first and then the title, and then you will come to the supporting illustrations and then finally the rest of the text. It's just how our brain works. So, if that is the case, then you may as well pay attention to these two first and then be careful about how much you want to use this. And these you have to think about right in the beginning, not as an afterthought also. But these, are, you can say, okay, this is supporting, this is supporting. So you don't pay, well, I wouldn't say pay so much attention. You make sure that they do not take away from the main. Now, with all this in mind, let's see if we can come up with another composition. Now, since we want to make an illustration and it's of a smoothie, do we need to just make an illustration like this, or can we have some fun with it? So, like I said, I'll show you how to make a mixer or a smoothie mix. I usually make mine in that little chunky bullet mixer, which is basically just like this. It doesn't even have a button. I have to just twist that thing inside and it's all done. Now, this is, I don't know whether it's a pretty enough mixer to put in as a hero of the recipe. Just because you can draw a mixer doesn't mean, or I mean, a blender doesn't mean that that blender needs to be the hero. But if you want the blender to be a hero, then you should look for a blender that's worthy of being a hero. So there are some which have, I guess, better looking. What are these things called? Accessories. Or you have used. I don't know if you're seeing this ad of some particular blender which is so cute. It comes in very cute colors also. So let's say if that is the one, that'll look like the ad for that particular blender, by the way, but it won't matter. So this is how it looks. It's like a little capsule tower. I think it's a cold press juicer. That's what it says here. And I think it's got like a little toggle here also, so you can just carry it around. It might even be charged so that you can make the smoothie whenever you want it. So you can put all the chunks inside the smoothie maker, and then on the backdrop you can always show something like a tabletop or a countertop on which you have all these fruit. That's one thing you can show. Or why even show all of that? You could show, I mean, it's going to be only natural that this smoothie maker is going to be on a tabletop. Why not show maybe even a jungle then outside? It's supposed to be portable anyway. Draw beautiful papaya leaves.
Yeah, when you did that top banana leaf, it reminded me of the opening of a tent.
Of a tent?
Like when you look out from a tent, so
Uh-huh.
you see this landscape, mountain outside, and this tent and the mixie in the middle.
Yeah.
That's portable.
That is true. So here, this, I guess this won't even need any words. But the challenge is that if you do need words, what do you do? So I can put maybe a Tetra Pak made, sorry, almond milk in a Tetra Pak, and then bananas on the side. And you can very simply put a nice blurb like this, in which you can write your recipe if you want to. If there is a certain measurement that you need to use. And as far as the title is concerned, you can write it somewhere like that. So making these rough sketches is very vital. You can decide whether this is something that you would like to make. So when I think about these appliances, I still enjoy making vintage appliances. I'm not a big fan of these very fancy, modern looking, sleek looking appliances. So maybe I'll give this a miss. But if I don't draw it, I'll never know what potential it might have had. Right, now one last one. So the standard is that you should make at least three designs, because making one and then making the opposite of that is quite easy. Move all the ingredients from here to here, change the background, that's easy enough. But how will you change that to a third one? So I'm now trying to convert this into a concept. So I'm thinking, how about let me make a beautiful glass. And the reason I want to make a glass like this is because I would like to show like a vortex in which the smoothie has probably been created. And in this vortex, I could show my ingredients.
Put glue everywhere. I only meant to put this side.
Okay, so we have this, and this vortex could also be made from liquid. So you can have this look like almond milk. You can put some almonds inside of this also. No, this is too busy. Okay, so which one should we make? We can make this a little better by putting this right in the middle also. So we have three options. We can have all these ingredients around the big glass in the center. We can make this with the jungle background, or we can make this with the vortex.
I like the jungle.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, all right. Let's make the jungle.
But I'd certainly like to know how to make a white vortex.
You don't make a white vortex.
Meaning, it would be nice to have it on a background with a white, flowy milk
Yeah.
kind of a vortex with almonds in it, brown almonds. That would be nice.
I'll,
Everything in white, maybe, just two colors. Be nice. But not, well, we'll go with the jungle at the moment, so it's okay.
Okay, so first things first, we need to have the proportion for the illustration, and uh, I will give you for the book. I'm definitely going to give you a proportion, but even before you start illustrating, remember that this could be for another purpose. So if it is going in any book, don't just randomly paint all over the entire page that you have. Um, we will we often make books at about 8 inch by 9.5 inches. So you can proportion this down to that size so that the whole picture then can be just scanned and blown up. So our paper is about 8.5 by 11 inches. So if you want to make an illustration that is 8 by 9, say, mark the page properly. So I like to keep equal space from both sides, which means that, one second, sorry. Okay. So for 8 inches, I have to leave a 1/4 inch from all sides. No, less than 1/4, 1/8. Because this is about 8 and 1/4 itself. And I don't know if you guys still remember how to use scales, but this is something that bothers me a lot. A lot of times, uh, participants have been a little shoddy in making these measurements. You should make measurements on two sides of the page and then draw a line across 2 points, not just one single point. Because then you might get like an 8 inch measurement at one point, but then the line has skewed sideways, and what we get is a slightly skewed picture. And later on, when I have to put it in the book, I have to correct far too many things. It takes a long time, which is completely unnecessary if you make this properly. Okay, and now from the sides. Now, in the event that you have a page that is smaller, but you want to make it in a proportion of 8 is to 9.5, for example, you just go back to your measurements. 8 is to 9.5. and we have a paper that's smaller, maybe just 7. So you just do this calculation and you will get your horizontal measurement. I'm going to convert mine to 7 by something. So it'll be 7 by 9.5. Divided by 8. It's 8.3. That way I'll get enough room on all sides and my picture will not look shoddy.
That, what were you measuring just now? The last bit about 7?
Yes. So
I
the
have no
7,
idea.
let me just tell you. So right now my page is 8.5. That gives me very little room on the sides. By my final illustration in the book needs to be 8 inches by 9.5 inches. All right, that is the size that we are going to make the book. But you need to have some room on the sides to either, especially for a jungle, the lines to flow. So we can reduce the width of our illustration by about an inch. So if I make this, say 7 inches, I will get at least half an inch on either side of my illustration. Right? You got that part?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Now, if the width is 7 inches, how much should the height be so that once I blow up the illustration to 8 inches, that height will
Should
be
become 9.5.
exactly, yeah.
That maths is beyond me.
It's a cross multiplication, simple. So for 8 inches width, if the height is 9.5, for 7 inches width, how much would the height be? You just cross multiply 7 into 9.5 divided by 8 and you get 8.3. Now even in this, from the sides, be careful when you're leaving a certain amount of space. So I'm leaving about 3/4 of an inch. 3. And then measure from this side. 8.3, thereabouts is fine. So even if this takes a little longer to measure, I encourage you to do this because later on you don't feel sad that you do all that hard work and you feel, hey, I should have just taken a little extra time, I should have measured, because it does finally show, and then for you it just feels really bad. I've been through this so many times, it's not worth the pain. Okay, now let's make that smoothie. So all of you, I want you to draw this smoothie maker. I think I should change that. Should I make that? I don't know. I don't like it so much. Okay, wait. I'll go with that.
Maybe we can make a vintage mixie, doesn't matter. You never know where.
I'm just looking. Yeah.
They're lovely old ones, roundish ones.
Okay, let's make a vintage then. The whole portability angle is thrown out of the window.
We can just make believe. It's okay. We are sitting in our garden with a very long extension cord.
There's a nice Smeg blender, Aditi, that sort of has a vintage.
Not the hand.
Which one? Which one?
I'm looking for blender. Sorry.
You can look up Smeg.
Yeah, yeah.
Smeg. Yeah, that's the one I'd drawn for my last recipe in the book. Yep.
Okay. I'm looking for snag. Okay. Something like this. Is this it?
There's a portable version also.
Is that right? Wow.
Yeah, it has a. Okay, wait.
Which one? Not this one. Okay.
Look at the retro blender. It's
Yeah.
just so cute.
Which one? Which one are you
Up, up, above, above. I mean, I don't know whether you mean go down. Just a little more. Here. Coming up, not this one. It's called retro blender. Up in light green. It's still
Yeah,
not
yeah,
on
yeah.
the.
This one, this one. Yeah.
Oh, look at that.
This is very cute, yeah. Okay, we will take forever to do this. All right, let's go with this.
Okay, Aditi, can I show you this? Okay, I don't know if you can see this.
Yeah, put it on the group, no?
And see.
Okay, yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah, let's use that. And Swati, would you also save the source of the picture so that on the video, then I can give that.
This is cute. Lovely pink with a little
Yeah, this is lovely.
dial and all. Oh, is that the one you got? I've got a different one.
Or I put another one. I think, but it's quite similar looking.
But this one is so cute. It's a little pink brown thing and
Yeah.
looks like one of the, what are those minions? No, with the yellow ones with one eye. It looks like that. This one, this particular one. Looks like a minion
One second, this
with a little hand. One of those Hello Kitty hands. So
one.
cute.
Yeah.
Yeah, doesn't it look like a minion with a little hand?
It does look like a mini. Especially because of the dial right in the middle of its.
Quite right. And it's got this little Hello Kitty hand, you know, the one that goes up and down in those cats, those
True.
Chinese ones.
Correct. Okay,
So
let's go with this fellow. Okay, so let's start off. So we have 6 ingredients, right? We have to draw banana, papaya, almonds, almond milk, molasses or date syrup, and strawberry. So what I'm looking at is, let's make the mixer or the blender. Sorry, I don't know why I keep calling it a mixer. Let's make that somewhere here. And let's give some room for the finished product because it's going to look very pretty after it's been made. Prettier, I would say. With all the garnishes and things like that. So here's my glass. And in the space behind it, I'm going to make this mixer pretty small. So in the beginning, just mark the space out with rectangles and squares so you get a proportion of the object and how much space you need. All right. Then we have these whole ingredients. We can have the we can have the larger one, which is the papaya, somewhere on top, which would be like a teardrop shape like that. And we can decide again, all of these decisions you can make by making rough sketches. I love to show a cut papaya instead of a whole papaya, because then you can make these seeds inside it and looks very dramatic. And we also can add in a little bit of that vortex idea by placing our ingredients in this manner, in a nice curved fashion. So you have one banana like this, and I'm tempted to make an opened up banana, but I think that's just gonna take our class to 4 o'clock otherwise. So we have maybe one part of the skin opened up like that. I'll show you how to draw this when we make it in fair. Then when it comes to things like almond milk, which would be in a container, and you have molasses, you need it known that that is it is what it says it is. It's not milk, it's almond milk, or it is not almond milk, it's milk, or it's cashew milk, or whatever. So my trick is usually to draw a jar with a fake label that I will make, and I'll say I'll draw an almond and then I'll draw milk. So it's a cheat. Something that looks like a milk bottle but has got a label that says milk with an almond on it. And then we have a container, another jar you can have, which could also be open, and you have the neck, a nice bulbous little body on which you can write date syrup or honey. And if you want to make this a little more energetic, you can also show some of that syrup spilling out like that. Creates a great energy for the topic that we are trying to make. Okay, how's everyone doing with this? Now for the grinder, if it's not mixer, it's grinder, but not blender. I don't know what's happening with me. So we can draw this in the background. And we also need to accommodate the title. So we can put a nice Here are the few options that I'm sure you will think of. Since we are making this a jungle, how about putting a leaf over here? And then you might think that will be a great idea to put a horizontal leaf and write smoothie on that, which may not be a bad idea, but it I think sometimes it compromises the jungle theme a bit too much. I would say we can find a way to make the lettering on the jungle theme without bending the jungle for our convenience. You know what I mean? So, say we have a banana leaf that comes in from the right. You know how banana leaves are? So, they are mostly just like a parallel line with a few breaks in the middle. These are tears. All palms grow leaves like this. Now, just drawing a leaf like that can be can make this smoothie look like a completely. It'll look like a South Indian wedding. So let's change some things here. Let's add some other plants. So we can add maybe one more banana leaf like this, which will be overlapping the one at the back. Oh, wait a minute. We don't have to show them coming from the bottom. We can show them coming from the top. That'll be nicer, I think. So you can have your banana leaf coming from the top like that. You can also have it behind the fruit. And then you can have for the papaya, you can also have the papaya leaf or a tree. Let me just look at some images. So papaya leaf is fairly complicated to make, but you can make it like this. You can draw one straight line, and then you will draw from one point, you will start drawing radiating veins. And I think there are seven veins you might have on a papaya plant, all from coming from one center core. And then each of them, starting from the center, you make a V-shaped terminus like this. Oh, and go outward, sorry, not inward. And make this leaf shape right to the center. Turn around, and if you don't have space, you don't make it. See? So you make this V shape, and then that goes outward and in and outward and in like a proper zigzag. As many times as you can without interfering with the space in between. If there is no space in between, then there are no leaves. I think it's a very clever plant. Now, in order for our ingredients to be seen, you can you can also make a bowl of almonds instead of loose almonds and have them jumping up out of the bowl. Now, a few things that we don't realize is that in an illustration, we have the freedom to do a lot of things. Like, even though we are making a jungle theme here, the jungle part can be shown with just colors and patterns. So we
Can't
can,
see anything at the moment, Aditi. It's completely very faint.
it's very faint now. All right.
Yeah.
No, I want to start inking this as soon as possible so that
Okay.
I can show this to you,
Okay.
then give you some time. Can I do that? And then I can compose everything else around it. Okay, I'll be using this brush pen for illustrating. This is again archival ink pen, so I can paint over this as well. But I want to show you how I'm styling the illustration. It's not going to be too refined, but at the same time it's going to have a lot of lines in between for more fun. Okay, so let's draw the blender first. Oh no, let's draw our smoothie first. So the quality of lines that I'm asking you to make is going to be a little wobbly. And you can get this line quality by even using a regular micron pen. You just won't get the thick and thin part, but you will still get a nice wobble on the line. This style suits me perfectly today because, well, not that I can't draw, but had I been feeble, that wobble would have been most welcome. Oh, I should have made this also tilted. For the almonds to look like almonds, I'm just making a few of these lines. Now these things, now the jars, I I encourage you to make these as daily practice as much as you can. Round jars, slightly slender jars. There is a certain proportion that you should get in your sketch That just comes very automatically if you've been sketching for a while. Forget about portraiture and all that will come very easy. Getting something like this is can be very challenging. And funnily enough, it's such a um, modest subject. It's sitting around on your table every day, and we just don't pay attention to it, thinking that no, what we I should practice making something more important than just these bottles. Ye to kya, I'll do anytime. And then when there is need to make this, you often don't get the right proportions, and you wonder, wow, what is going on? I think this will also look nicer if it's open. Now for the banana, I'm opening the peel from one side. Now usually when we peel a banana, we take the that stalk off as well, right? So ignore the stalk and draw that slit first, the point where you are imagining you're peeling the banana from. So it's almost like a compound curve, like so, with the banana visible inside. And then put a fold in there. And a few blemishes on the banana peel as well. You don't have to fill up the entire inside of the papaya with seeds. Okay, shall I give you a minute to illustrate these? Take your time.
So, Aditi, should I use a micron 0.5 or a little thickish if I have this brush pen?
Yeah, you can use a 0.5 also, yes.
Aditi, could you please post a picture of the papaya leaf that you referenced on our group? Aditi there.
Sorry, I was.
Sorry, I just asked, could you post a picture of the reference for the papaya leaf on the group?
All right.
Or it doesn't matter if you haven't got it. Now I can see your papaya leaf. Yeah, I
Oh,
couldn't see
yes.
it earlier.
Okay, you can see it. No, let me make it.
Yeah.
I'll show you how I made it also.
Okay,
So
please.
first, I made these lines first. So I
Ah,
wanted first the direction of where the central leaf would go,
right.
and then I made these two on the sides, which would be the next big uh, parts of the leaf. Then two which go almost at 90 degrees to the main stalk,
Mhm.
then two extra on the sides like that. Once that was drawn, then I drew the V shape for these big leaves and then gave two more V shapes like so. And then between these little parts of the leaf, you always have that little circular shape. But wherever you feel, like in this case, if I were to continue this line, it will go and clash with the existing line. Just don't draw that line. For an illustration like this, you don't really need to make every line visible. And the purpose of making my frame smaller is to bleed the design outward. Now, this is something that I'm again going to recommend all to do. Make your illustration slightly bigger than the given size, the even in the proportion, even if you have an 8 by 9.5 proportion paper, take extra space and bleed your illustration outward, because then when we want the whole page to be filled with your illustration, we can edit it to whatever point we want. But if you just make half a leaf here, it looks really weird, and then forced to only show your illustration from here down. So if there is any extension, just let it extend outward. It may get cut, but that's something the editor will decide. One second. Oh, I was supposed to wait to make the text. All right, so our text is now going to come behind the or on top of the smoothie banana leaves. So here's my text. I'll make room for that, and then accordingly I will also make the banana leaf behind it. There are many ways in which you can write this text and make it very creative also. But like I showed you earlier, decide on whether the text is to be more important or your hero is going to be more important. Now, in this case, I suppose the combination of the blender and the finished product are going to be the heroes. All this is going to flow through the jungle. So, since we are in a jungle, maybe what we can show is um, we can show a banner. That's my simplest go-to. But you also have to write what the smoothie is about. All right, so I'm gonna edit this. Now, whatever we do, we cannot write like a big banana and papaya smoothie in all of this, because if those letters are really large, they will take away from the fruit and milk and all these ingredients themselves. So, our letters need to be pretty but also discreet. So when I make the banner here, the banner is going to be the element which is like the blender, slightly unexpected in a jungle scene. And it will attract attention just because, um, I guess, the fact that it stands out as an alien in all of these. And then right above the blender, you can write something. I mean, you don't even need to write banana and papaya because it's already there. In the banner, you will make this line, a base line and a capital height line. And we'll just write smoothie for now, which has THI 8 letters. So start making these divisions in your banner. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You must allocate space for all the letters. Don't start writing without allocating right amount of space. And also your letters should not be so large and so close to the banner edges that they they clash. There should always be some room between what you are writing and what you're writing it on, and where that place is placed against other objects in the picture. I have often come across students doing this. So they'll write the whole word smoothie going from the top edge of the banner to the bottom edge of the banner. That really doesn't make the picture look any better. And whenever you're making these curved lines, move your hand like that, always. Don't try to make it like with shorter lines, because it just does not do the trick. Okay, I'm quite happy with this. Although I would have liked my papaya leaf to come underneath the smoothie banner, but it's okay. Now for the blender. Wherever you have these joints in the blender, don't make them like a flat line. And one reason for hiding the blender behind the glass is so that you don't have to make two symmetrical sides. And at any point, if you feel you need to redraw some lines before you make them final, go ahead and do that. Huh? Don't stick to the first few lines that you have drawn. Oh, that little hand is gone behind both, sadly. The knob. Okay. So we've got our text here, we've got our blender. These little things can be painted over. Now I want to make that whole jungle scene in the back, right? But I don't want my ingredients to get lost in that. So to help you do that, let me show you one trick. First, let's make this banana leaf. Just one of them, not both. I'm extending even the banana leaf a little beyond the border. And then, just so that all of this looks like it's together, you can always create some graphic color blocks in this. So, you can make a swoosh-like design like this, which is like a little road you can show on which all the ingredients are sitting, and they come all the way to the bottom to our smoothie here. Now this part can be a very different color from your jungle, and you can draw multiple lines in this with gaps in between. So it can easily look like a brush stroke that has been made. Now I prefer not to have these kind of very regular gaps in the middle. So I'll fill these up with maybe a strawberry or two. And even for the strawberry seeds, I usually just make a few and finish it off. They don't all have to be drawn. So what you want to do is keep minimal space between these ingredients. So they all look like they are tumbling into each other and they're going to crash into a smoothie. So if we were to expand on this further, you can also show it coming from the blender like that. And this can be very subtle, and this can be rather bold. But this gives us some respite. Now we have an area around this space which we can fill up with all sorts of leaves. And these leaves can be made as pretty much the same leaves like we have already made. Make some banana leaves or palms. you can show date palm like palms, so they are just multiple leaves like that. The thing with leaves or drawing lots of leaves in a jungle scene is to visualize how jungles look. And you will often have a spot from where the leaves come out, and then next to that there'll be another one, and then above that there'll be another one. So you can start expanding that way. Now, because of our hero sitting very close to this side, I don't want to make leaves that are too broken up. So I'll make these nice big. They have nothing to do with our smoothie. Yeah, and our swish of color will come over here. Now there's no need to outline all these leaves because a black outline will make everything stand out quite a bit. We have already made stuff stand out. So these leaves don't do anything over there. Don't make any drawing. Let's quickly start painting. Now we have 7 minutes to paint this whole thing, which is not going to happen. But let me at least start you off because it's pretty easy afterwards. So first things first, you may remove the border, the edge, because you want to paint, you want to expand your illustration, right? But you should keep some cut marks. So cut marks are marks outside of the border, which will tell you where that proportion ends. So beyond the corner, outside of the boundary of your proportioned drawing, you can make these dots, which are called cut marks. These are excellent for the editor to know exactly where to draw that square in which your picture is going to be placed. And for you to be able to bindas paint and not have any of these lines show, you can remove the lines of the border so that they don't come underneath your painting. That's another thing that's just terrible to take out afterwards. Now let's make a swoosh in a nice warm gamboge mixed with orange color. Okay? The coloring in this is going to be very easy, so I'm not too worried about that. Since we have drawn all these ingredients, they are fairly evident, whatever it is, you don't need to be too worried about painting them too accurately. So let's make this nice swish in should we make it in yellow or should we make it in another color? I'm wondering now. Let's make it in another color. Forget it. I'll tell you why. You want to create a contrast. So let's test this out. Our ingredient colors are gamboge for banana, gamboge, orange, and crimson for papaya. That's gamboge, orange, and crimson. Then we have just a regular gray color for the almond milk, maybe a burnt umber for date syrup, burnt umber or burnt sienna, sorry, for the almonds, right? So these are all warm colors and they're going to make us a nice pink smoothie, and we have this lovely pink colored blender. But should we then change our jungle theme and make the swish a cerulean blue instead of the same as these colors? So how do we know whether our decision is going to be right or not? You make swatches. You actually make a swatch and see what kind of feel do you get from this. So we are going to make a blue color and then several green colors, largely versions of sap green. Excuse me 1 second. So since these are um, warm colors, we can use cool colors as the backdrop. And because we are using the warm colors are lighter, we can make washes over there first. So clear this line out, and using a reasonably thick consistency of paint and a nice thick brush, you can just slap on the color. Some of it might even go out, that's fine. The whole idea behind this illustration is to make it quick, not too dowdy. Now I'm blending some, I guess, darker shade in the existing first wash as I go along, and that effect will look really nice. The colors are still the same, that's gamboge, orange, and crimson, not scarlet, crimson.
My koi coloring brush pens are not are water based. How wonderful.
What? Oh no.
Yes. So I have an old looking banana.
Oh dear.
Never mind. I'll do it all over again because all the black spreads. So I'm leaving out the sides.
Oh, that's such a shame.
Yes, it's okay. I'll do it again. Anyway, it wasn't very well done. It's okay. This is koi coloring brush pens. Why didn't I look at this to know it's water based ink?
Oh gosh. Okay, this is how a bottle has to be painted. Just any one side will become the shadow and give a highlight in any one spot. Around the highlight, you will put a shadow and the base, of course. Basically, for any object, you can make a shadow on any one side and leave a highlight on any side, and that's fine.
This lends itself to black and white, the water-based.
What does?
This, the bleeding coloring brushes,
Uh-huh.
the brush pens,
Mm-hmm.
because you get a nice gray. So I don't really need to mix gray. I can do the whole thing in black and white.
Okay. Nice. Now for that very light baby pink of the machine, use a very watery scarlet and crimson, mostly crimson, but little bit of scarlet also keeps it a little warm. And look at how the highlight is along the edge in that shape. So it's very easy to paint. And just drag the color down. And you do not want very even shades, huh? So if this happens now, some places you will have a dark spot. Let that be. Don't try to overwork this and pull it down. Now somewhere in between all of these is our smoothie color. So if you want to make it really light, then put enough water in it. And I would also put a few swishes or leave a few swishes of white in between. And I would paint it a little inside the glass. Deliberately, I'm going to put some red very close, strawberry color close to the surface painting, and some of that some of the strawberry color is going to escape into the smoothie. Now, making these labels things, I like to also make the labels in some color. So I'll make this in a cerulean blue like that. Make that almond shape, and with negative painting we can also make the words milk. So all you need to do is mark out the space that you need it in. This could have very well been done in pencil first, but it came to me as an afterthought. Not advisable. I'm trying it. If it doesn't work out, I'm just going to paint the whole thing. There we go. And for the date syrup, we can use burnt umber. And this one can be a sign like that, which can have, I think dates are not easy to draw or to guess. So I'm writing the words date syrup. And if you can just spare a minute, I want you to see how I paint this. So starting off with filling up the space between letters and beyond them or around them. This can be done pretty fast because it's like blocking out the space for the letters. And this also helps you deposit a certain amount of paint in that space. And once that is done, you can one by one shape each letter. So just a little outside of the letter. Now you'll see that I have used very watery paint because I don't want the paint to dry off. I don't mind that it might look a little patchy because of the excess water, but I don't want it to dry off. So I'm painting the space between, or say around each of these letters, and in that I will find my word. This is another very interesting time pass exercise to do. It helps you to see negative spaces very efficiently and also to draw in tiny spaces pretty well.
Wow, that's really well done.
Nice now?
With watery paint too. My
Yeah.
goodness.
Now it will just spread wherever and do its own thing. Okay, quickly moving on to, it's 12:40 already, so in case anyone needs to leave, I understand. But I just want to complete a few things because after this now I will see you directly after 3 weeks, not two. And Susan is going to take your class next week and 2 weeks after that. Right, so now it's all coming together, and the more you do this, the more I guess at some point you have to take a call how much more you want to do. Suppose after a certain point you feel, okay, this is enough, now it's getting too crowded, then you can abandon the idea of making the whole jungle in color. You can still make it as a black and white backdrop because it's quite a lovely idea. So, how do you take that call? So this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to make this blue colored swish. We've never done this effect before, so I wanted to show this to you. In each section, you will decide on what part you want to paint and just make, say, one line over there, like this big fat line that goes from one side to the other. And then next to that there is a gap, and then you have another part of the same swish coming. And then at some point it either joins the earlier one or makes a new line of its own. So you have to paint this in parts, and you can design the this whole swishing action to look a certain way, as if you have a column of water flowing down, or you have just a piece of sky that is coming downwards. These are like accent lines. They are there to bring out certain aspects of your illustration which otherwise would not have found connection, or they might get lost. But you don't want to tie them all together necessarily, yet they need to look like they are together. So you'll find such tricks are used often in advertising and packaging, because in on a package, on a small package, there are so many things that they need to be designed in this manner and still be visible, but yet establish some hierarchy saying this is not as important but it still is important. So how do you do that and still keep everything connected? This is where all these additional lines and shapes and forms can come in handy. Now, if we do paint the background into a jungle like scape, all these will still be tied in. Now this part also I am painting pretty much like I painted the letters, just going over the broader areas with my fat brush so that I can paint fast enough. And then keeping the paint wet so that I can then use a smooth brush and go past those areas also. I guess just to see how this might work. Now, on second thought, I'm wondering whether this blender is even needed here. we could have done without the blender also, because it's using up space there, not really doing anything except looking pretty. So something like that will tie everything together. And then once that whole jungle comes in, you won't even notice this blue thing. We'll be glad it was there.
You'll be doing it like with a green theme at the back?
Yeah, I want to do it.
Yeah.
I'd like to show you how that whole
Yes.
looks filled up.
When you do it, and you can post it on the group, and we can have a look at
Yeah.
how to do the background before we decide.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I think we'll have to do this. At least I'll have to do this all over again. Hmm.
Yeah, because of your ink, right?
Yeah, my ink is, and anyway, it wasn't placed very well because I try and do it mirror image because it's easier for me to, do it mirror image for my left hand.
Okay.
So then, because of the edges of all the things,
Uh-huh.
I think I'll just do that again.
Okay.
Meaning my glass is on the other side of the mixie and the fruits are on the other side. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
yeah.
So they're not very well placed, so I'll need to do it again.
No
I'm
problem.
only sharing this because it's topical. So I was having a smoothie during class and I finished it, but I happened to put my wet brush into that smoothie instead of the water bowl. So suddenly I was like, why am I painting with mango banana smoothie?
That always happens
Yes.
in class. Even in the in-person class, we often used to have coffee. Now we don't have coffee as much. And invariably somebody would dip
Yeah.
their brush.
That now don't drink anything because everything is mixed up.
Yes,
And it's worse when you're doing calligraphy.
yes.